Hello everybody, welcome to this week's live stream. If it's the first of these you've attended, I normally do them every Friday at 2:30 UK time. The way it works is we'll have a look at some of the news announcements coming out next week to watch for. Then I will... Why has that happened? Sorry. Then I'll look at the markets, the major stuff, indices, FX, gold, oil, Bitcoin, a bit of everything. And if there's any markets you want looking at, if you just put it in the chat here on YouTube, then we'll have a look at them once we've done all that. Interesting week this week. It's been a good week for me this week. I'll talk about some of the trades, but I bought the S&P. We had this sell-off on Tuesday, off the back of that US inflation data, didn't we? So I ended up buying the S&P. I'm still in that trade at the moment, and I did a day trade the next day on the S&P. I'm still in that one. I've got a mix of US stock trades open at the moment. I talked about that a bit in the weekly newsletter that gets sent out. I'll do an update as to how they're trading as well as we go through, but a bit of volatility in that this week, not surprising given the moves we've seen in stock markets. So I think it's been a really interesting week. You know, we had the surge in the US dollar off the back of the inflation data. There we go. That's Tuesday's surge for the dollar. So a bit of excitement there. What else has been happening this week? We had Bitcoin is up near 53,000. But for me, my main focus has been stock markets. And I think there will be, well, for me anyway, I think there could be a buying opportunity later on today. But before we get into all of that, let's just go through some of the housekeeping. This presentation is only for educational purposes. It does not contain and should not be construed as containing investment advice or an investment recommendation or an offer of or solicitation for a transaction in any financial instrument. David Jones accepts no responsibility for any use that may be made of these comments and for any consequences that result. You should consider whether you understand how spread bets, CFDs, futures, foreign exchange work, and whether you can afford to take the high risk of losing your money. Trading is risky. Okay, so looking ahead to next week, not much next week. It's a holiday, as Richard mentioned as well in the chat. Monday the 19th, so next Monday is President's Day in the US, which is a holiday. So the stock markets are shut on Monday, and other markets like the bonds and all that will have different hours. So, you know, even for traditional 24-hour markets like FX, it could well be a quieter day. So I think I might have a day off on Monday, to be honest, as most of my focus at the moment is US stocks. So I won't be trading on Monday, but that's coming up beginning of next week. And then for me, the big one is Wednesday night, or Wednesday night my time in the UK. It's the Fed minutes. So the minutes from the last meeting of the US Central Bank, the Federal Reserve. What do they think about rates? What do they think about inflation? What do they think about the economy? All the usual. So we could have a fair bit of volatility off the back of that. That's Wednesday evening UK time. So what's that? I suppose it's going to be like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, is it? US time, something like that. So yeah, let's see. So that's really the big focus for next week. I didn't see anything else major that jumped out at me. So a quiet day on Monday, and then perhaps a quiet day on Tuesday, marking time until this Fed thing is out of the way on Wednesday night. But we could have some fireworks off the back of that. We'll see. So a quick word from the sponsor, which is me. I'm working with a new partner broker this year, Trade Nation. If you sign up via my link, you'll have access to lots of webinars and stuff I'm going to be doing with them. If you go to the website or put in, the link is in the description, bit.ly David Trade, it should take you to a page that looks not like that, but like that with my face on it. And you can sign up and trade with these guys. I like trading because it's tight spreads. Here's an example. This is a real account that I use for the YouTube videos. Tight spreads on various markets. Very much a no frills platform, which suits me. I do all my trading through, or my charting through TradingView, which you'll probably know if you've watched any of these videos before. So for me, I like it. So the link is in the description down below. I've lost the PowerPoint presentation now. I also have this WhatsApp group. I've run this WhatsApp group for about a year now. I put a daily update from me in there. First thing in the, well, not first thing in the morning, as if. About 11 o'clock in the morning. What markets am I watching? What am I trading? All that sort of stuff. Then I'll come back in the afternoon when US markets are open and talk about my US stocks trading and the levels I'm watching for the indices in the US. So here is, if you're on the newsletter, you will have seen this. You know, I'm trading. One of the things for me this year is to trade a bunch of US stocks. At the moment, I've got about 30 open positions, saw quite a bit of volatility this week. But long story short, on this account here, these are all open positions. That one's closed, got stopped out of that one. It's running at 6,000 profit so far. I've been running this since the 18th of December. I started off with Amazon on the 18th of December. Big winners are Eli Lilly is a big winner, General Dynamics, Eaton Corporation, blah, blah, blah. If you're on the newsletter list, you'd have seen me link to this in the past. But again, in the afternoon, like after I finish doing this live stream, I'll talk about the 1 or 2 stocks that I'll be buying later on that day. So there's a whole load of information in that WhatsApp group. I think you should try it out if you're serious about trading. If you go to my website and use the code YouTube, you can sign up and get 20% off the first month. So you can try it out and see what you think. So the website is davidjonestrading.co.uk. If you go to subscribe, you'll see the WhatsApp group thing and you can sign up there. Okay, so that's, and the link again to all of this will be in the description. I think there's about 50 people in the group at the moment. It works really well. I think some of the people have been in there for a year. So hopefully everyone finds it useful. I certainly find it useful to do it every day, and it does focus my mind. And I'm normally, you know, in and out there answering any questions as the day goes on. And finally, I run a newsletter. It's free of charge. I send it out every weekend, normally on a Sunday. Go to the website, go to the homepage, and you can put your email address in there, and you'll get my newsletter that goes out every Sunday normally. That's free of charge. Okay, so that's all of that, isn't it? So like I say, go to the website, davidjonestrading.co.uk, and you'll see all of that stuff there. And I would, you know, I do think if you're serious about trading, sign up for the newsletter. You know, I had a bumpy start to the year, had a bad week, but since then, it's been a really good year for me so far. And absolutely, these US stock trades, I mean, obviously, we need to bear in mind, you know, that's what the P&L looks like. It has been a market that's rising this year. You know, if you haven't made money trading US stocks so far this year, you need to have a word with yourself, you know, because it's been a pretty one-directional market. It'll be interesting when things get a bit more choppy, but so far this approach has returned 23% on margin used since the 18th of December. And that's a big thing for me, is obviously not so much the financials. I mean, I trade it, this example here is with 500 quid risk per trade. You could trade it with 5 grand risk per trade. You could trade it with 50 quid risk, 50 euros, $50, whatever per trade. So for me, it's all about the percentages, and it's made 23% return since December on margin used. I have to say, of course, that past performance is no guarantee of future performance. And we have had very nice markets for trading stocks, I think, this year. So let's see how it carries on. But I update all the people in the WhatsApp group about that and the other trades I'm doing, like the S&P and stuff like that. Okay, so that's all that stuff done. Let's take a look. Let's have a look at some things. Let me see if I can get. Can I get client sentiment for the S&P 500? Let's see what that looks like. Which way are people leaning at the moment? They're still long. I'm looking at a popular UK broker. So 57% of clients are long this market, but it does mean that 43% is short. Yeah, there's short a market that's done that since October last year. So, you know, for me, I'm still very much by the dips. I'm long at the moment. You know, we had all-time highs again on Monday this week. Quite a bit of volatility. Here we go on that interest rate announcement. I think it's an interesting trade for this afternoon. And I've got 2 open trades at the moment in the S&P with trading stops on. I'd be looking to buy the dip I think it'd be interesting if it does nudge back towards yesterday's lows around 5,000. Let's see. But loads of opportunities for me in the S&P typically over a week. And, the trend continues, So we did have, we've only really had 1 day of sell-off, this week. It was quite interesting to watch and quite a big move in a short period of time. But it was just that 1 day and the markets bounced back. We've got to go back to the beginning of late December, beginning of Jan, to see any sort of decent sell-off in the S&P so far this year, and it has been pretty much one-way traffic. So it's been a nice market for me to trade, definitely, and it's done well for all my US stock trades. We'll see how things go as the day goes on. Nasdaq, same really as the old S&P. Let me just remove some of this stuff. There we go. So the Nasdaq has been in a trend since beginning of last year. Clearly that trend has accelerated from October last year, but the trend is still up. Even if the market got knocked back 1,000 points from here, the trend is still up. So I think it will be interesting if we do get a bit of a shake out in some of these stock markets. But for me at the moment, still happy to be a buyer of the dips on the Nasdaq. I don't know, not quite sure why I've got an alert up there. I don't think I need that. Let's get rid of that. So there's the Nasdaq. The DAX, the German market, fresh all-time highs yesterday by the looks of it, I think. There we go. Yeah, it's a funny market, the DAX. Since middle of December, it's been pretty much sideways. And then sideways again since mid to late Jan. And we've had a breakout here. So that could be an interesting market for next week, I think. I quite like to buy the dip. I did notice it was selling off the last few hours. It could be interesting later on today or on Monday, but I'd like to buy the dip on the DAX. The closest I would have my stop is the other side of 17,000, but that could be an interesting market for next week following the breakout over the last couple of days or so. FTSE doing its own thing as usual, but we've had a good 3 days in the FTSE. It's not a market I trade that often because it's all a bit sideways over the last 6 to 8 months. Really, the FTSE, I'd much rather trade a market with a clearer trend, but that's had a bit of a run. But this sort of 7,700 area has been a problem going back to the summer. So perhaps we'll see a bit of FTSE weakness next week. I don't know. Japan, the Nikkei, great run in the Nikkei. I mean, the Nikkei broke out 10th of Jan from 34,000 and we've nearly got to 39,000 this week. That's a big old move. It's a 15% move almost since the beginning of the year in the Nikkei, over the last, over a month or so. It's only over a month or 5 weeks, So again, for me, the Nikkei, absolute buy the dips in that market. And that's it. So stock markets, all positive. The only markets I tend to watch closely are the S&P and the Nasdaq, and those trends are still up. Interesting to see what happens this afternoon, but if we picked up on the trend in the Nasdaq this week, it looks something like that. This is on the hourly charts. So for me, I would absolutely be a buyer later on today, assuming the dip stops dipping. Let's see what happens. But really interesting markets there. So that's that. That's the old stock markets. Same old, as it has been for a while. Dollar index. I mean, this did break out this week on that interest rate thing. We had a bit of a breakout here in early Feb, breaking the December highs. Pulls back a bit, does nothing for a week, and has broken out again. So again, on the dollar index, I would be a buyer of the dip on the dollar index. I said in the WhatsApp group this week, after that surge, the obvious level for me to have stops below is 103.80, 104. These old lows from just the beginning of the week, So that's again, it feels like it never actually quite wants to get a move on properly. We have these sudden surges and then nothing. But, I'd still be a buyer of the dip in the dollar index. So let's see what happens. With that, and of course then because we are seeing perhaps a boring dollar index, we're seeing fairly boring markets when it comes to pound against the dollar. For example, we had that news out this week that the UK is in recession. The market doesn't care. I think that is nothing news that the UK technically, based on the data to the quarter to the end of December that was released earlier this week, The UK is in recession. We've had 2 quarters of contracting growth, but there's speculation we'll be out of it by the end of next month anyway, the next reporting or quarterly period. So, you know, it was really a nothing event, although of course it's got lots of news coverage because the news loves bad news. But really, from a market's point of view, I don't think anybody cares about the UK recession. So that's that in the UK, but fairly sideways for the pound against the dollar. Euro dollar, I was thinking that, you know, I think there's an argument to be a buyer. Excuse me, sorry. You know, we've come back, there's this big trend in the euro against the dollar from October 22. So we're 16, 17 months into that. 107 had been a bit of a big level end of last year. Let's see, you know, but at the moment with the dollar, US dollar strong, it's difficult to get too excited, for me anyway, about a euro recovery. So I'm not seeing, there's not a lot I'm excited about when it comes to FX at the moment, because the dollar is, you know, let's see, you know, I'd buy the dip here, but we need perhaps more of a protracted trend for me, which is the same sort of thing for gold and silver. You know, gold, if you look at it over the last, I don't know, 10 months or so, it's pretty sideways. Okay, the bias is up, and we did have fresh all-time highs briefly in early December, but it's pretty drifty. Gold, pretty directionless, not much excitement for me. But if I think someone asked me, I think it was yesterday in the WhatsApp group, or maybe today, you know, is it a buy down here? Is it a sell? I'd rather be a buyer than a seller of gold, you know, but it's just a bit boring. You know, we've got the old 1973, 1973 support, you know, so maybe we get a bit of a bounce next week, but it's just not an interesting market to me. And the same for silver, you know, you know, even more sideways. You know, if we go back a year on silver, big range from $20 to $26, but just sideways. You know, no real trends, not an attractive market for me. I did mention it in the WhatsApp group. You know, it was interesting that 22 had held again. We had a bounce off 22, but it's not really a market that's of interest to me because we don't have the trends. But, you know, perhaps we've reached the bottom of the range and we have a little run up from here. I don't know. I don't really care either. If we look at oil, so look at oil. I didn't do a trade on this yesterday because I was out yesterday, but I would have done the trade. I think it was interesting move yesterday on the hourlies. You know, we've had the trend for oil like that, and it sold off yesterday. So I absolutely would have bought it if I was around yesterday, but I wasn't. And it bounced back. And so for me, I'd still be buying the dips in oil. I just think the thing to be aware of, if you flip it over to the dailies, this $80 level, you know, has been a real problem since November last year. So we are, 3 months into that. So for me, if you want to go short oil, it's the perfect place to go short because you've got, you know, a definite level to put your stop above. Let's say, I don't know, $82 stop or something like that, 81, I don't know. Let's see, interesting market over the next week or so. Can it break $80, or is once again $80 going to be a bridge too far for the price of oil? Let's see what happens. And natural gas, I hate this market, natural gas. I have not traded it in a while. It is relentless. So many people, I'm sure, trying to catch the bottom in natural gas. Let's have a quick look at natural gas client sentiment, shall we? What do you reckon? I'm going to say that everyone's long. That's what I'm going to say. But let's see. Oh, ouch. 90% of clients are long on this market. Of course they are. Of course they're long natural gas. It's dropped. How much has it dropped? It's halved in about a month. It's vicious sell-off. I mean, I think I wrote about it in last week's newsletter. If I'd have traded this, I think I've traded it once this year and I got stopped out. It's a lunatic market, you know. Here, to me, it's a lunatic market. You know, here hits almost a 12-month high. Here, bullish, beginning of January. That's a bullish move, yeah. 12-month high. Where are we now? We're down at, where have we got to go back to on natural gas? Got to go all the way back to here. June 2020. So we go from a 12-month high to a 4-year low in the space of a month. It is a cruel market, natural gas. So for me, no interest. Really, really weak. And if someone's short, it's been a fantastic market if you're short, because it's virtually gone down every day for the last 2 or 3 weeks. So yeah, still weak. I'd still rather be a seller of rallies. It has, I mean, that is actually a very textbook uptrend. It has a little rally and then it says, no, not today. Falls, has a little rally the next day, no. And just off it goes. So it's actually a thing of beauty, the hourly chart for natural gas, but it's not a market that I've been involved in on this way down. So I've missed an opportunity there, but I don't like the volatility in natural gas, but really interesting, you know, and not surprising. The same way it is. I think someone last year christened it the Widowmaker natural gas, because everyone is always the wrong way. When the market's going up, they're all trying to pick the top. So on the way up to $10, I remember loads of people were short. On the way down to $2, loads of people were long. And here we are, halved over the last month, and loads of people are long again. Very interesting example of human psychology and why people lose when it comes to markets, to trading. So that's natural gas, crazy market. And that's it. Oh, Bitcoin. Let's do Bitcoin. Good move in Bitcoin. There we go. Breakout in Bitcoin through those. Those were the highs, weren't they, when the ETF was announced, 11th of Jan. So we saw a spike higher, then the market sold off. But here we are. We've recovered and we're at the best levels since about December 21. Something like that on Bitcoin. So, you know, really bullish move on Bitcoin. You know, well, I don't trade Bitcoin hardly at all, but talking about it last year, the trend was clearly up for all of last year. So I'd be buy the dips on Bitcoin. I'd rather have a bigger dip to buy, theoretically, if I was going to buy it. But no, it's been a really good market, hasn't it? So what's it done this year? Where did it end last year? It ended last year. Where's the end of last year? Here. At 42,000, and here we are at 52. So 20% move in Bitcoin. Off to the moon again, perhaps. Let's see. So that's it. Let's have a quick look at some of my stocks as it's just opened. You have to indulge me a bit so I can see what's moving. Eli Lilly, that's been a brilliant one, that has. I can't even remember when I bought that. Hang on a second. Let's have a look. 22nd of Jan. 22nd of Jan. Bought them at 631. It's been a dream trade because it's just gone up. So it's at 765 today. Molina Healthcare, I was in that. I bought those on the knockback. And Boston Scientific, they done well as well. So let's see. What was someone in the group was talking about Roku this morning? They had results out last night. Oof, ouch. Okay, so they closed at. Now I would buy that dip. I'd wait for it to stop dipping. It's gone sailing through the support I was thinking about. So they closed in official hours last night at $94.50. And here we are at 75, $20 fall, 20% fall. That'd be an interesting one, I think, for maybe next week or later in the week. Let's see. But now we'll take a look at some of the stuff you want to look at. But don't forget, go to the website to find out more. Sign up with my partner broker to get access to all the webinars and stuff I run. Try the newsletter. If you try it, I think you'll like it. You've got to pay for it. But it's me every day, twice a day, 3 times a day, sometimes even more than that, talking about markets and stuff. If you go to the website and use the code YouTube, you can sign up for the newsletter and get access to all of that. Links are in the description. Right, let's have a look. What do you want to have a look at? Let's have a quick look at these US markets, see where they're trading. Are they still coming off a bit? Yeah, still coming off a little bit. Let's see what happens. Nike, let's have a look at Nike. So Nike, New York Stock Exchange listing. Oh, that's been hit, isn't it? What's going on with Nike? So look on the dailies. It's interesting. It's pretty boring, actually. I mean, it's volatile. It's gone from 84 in September 22 to wherever, 131. It's pretty sideways, isn't it? I don't know what I would do with that one. I would look to sell short, and they had earnings out or something. The time to sell short was earlier in the week. Nike to lay off nearly 1,700 employees to right-size the company. Interesting. Yeah, for me, I don't know. There probably isn't a trade there for me. You know, the trade, if it rallied back up to like 106, I'd look to go short with a stop at 112. But a little bit sideways, really, for me. That one. Tesla, TSLA. Let's have a look at those. What would you do? It's another one. I'd probably not do anything. If I had to do something, I'd probably be a buyer of Tesla. And for me, an aggressive stop would be, so if I bought it today at 199-ish, I put a stop underneath these lows. The post-earnings low was about a week after their earnings. So the low was, whatever it was, 175. So buy them at 198 with a stop at 175 maybe would be the trade I would do. But again, it's pretty directionless, isn't it? You know, over the last 10 months, I had a great run last year into the summer, didn't it? So from the lows in Jan of around $108, touched 300 in July, and it's just been a bit drifty since then, isn't it? So it's not one for me. That one, Tesla. Bitcoin flies to the moon. What are your thoughts? We did Bitcoin, didn't we? I still think it looks strong. I'd buy the dips. You know, I wonder if this 50, 52 level, where it is now, is a bit of a psychological one. And people think, oh, Bitcoin's above 50, I better sell. So it wouldn't surprise me if we saw a bit of weakness in Bitcoin. But I'd absolutely buy the dip. You know, if it dipped back into the low 40s, I think it's interesting. So what do you think about Apple? A possible opportunity to go long on the hourly chart. Okay, let's look at the dailies first. I mean, the dailies are pretty boring, aren't they, in Apple? It's been a bit sideways since the summer. But yeah, I can see what you mean about going long on the hourlies. Again, I'd rather find something that was in an actual trend than just sideways. But if I had to buy Apple, if I bought them today, put a stop. What was this earnings spike? So Apple's earnings were the 1st of Feb. It gapped to, what did it gap to? 179 the next day. So if I was a buyer now, I would put a stop maybe at 178. But again, it's not one that really appeals to me. Because, yeah, it's still a bit sideways, isn't it? I'd rather find something that was trending. But for me, that 180, 179 to 180 on Apple has been a bit of a level. What's the big picture like? I mean, obviously the big picture for Apple, the trend is still up. But since this breakout, when was the breakout? Here. June 23, last summer. I mean, that looked really bullish. I absolutely would have bought into that. And then probably got stopped out at some point. It's just been a bit directionless again, isn't it? But yeah, I'd rather be a buyer than a seller. And I think, you know, on the dailies again, for me, below, if I was a buyer now, the closest I would go would be the other side of that 2nd of February low. Let's see. But I'd much rather buy what's doing well for me at the moment. Something that looks like this. General Electric. There you go. I think that was quite an early one for me. I buy those 8th of Jan. So for me, something that's got a trend, you know, and it's maybe broken out and it's pulled back. So I'd rather buy something that was trending than buy something that was just a little bit too sideways for me. Intel. Let's have a look at that. I mean, the trend is up, isn't it? Since, for me anyway, for a year now. Was that an earnings shock again? I wouldn't be a buyer today. It might be a buy on Tuesday. It's still a bit weak at the moment for me. But if I was a buyer, you know, I would go stops the other side of 41 or 40. So it's an interesting trade again, isn't it? Because if I'm a buyer at 43.35 with a stop at 40, I've got, let's say, $3.50 risk. If it rallies back up to their highs, there's about $9, $8 or $9 potential upside. So from a risk-reward point of view, it's an interesting one. I would just rather wait for it to stop dipping. But it could be an interesting one for next week, the old Intel, I think. TXN, Texas Instruments. I think we looked at this before. Oh, I was thinking about short that, and then it broke out, and then I would be short, basically, is what I would do. Again, it's another one. It's not exciting, is it? You think about what stock markets have done. You know, last year, NASDAQ up 45%, S&P up 24%. This year, we've seen a strong start. What's Texas Instruments doing? Nothing. It's going sideways. So for me, again, not much interest, but I'd rather sell a rally. But it's not the most exciting thing at the moment in the world for me. TRV is Travelers. Oof, I'd buy that. The only question is, do I wait to buy it? So for me, you know, we've got a trend going on. We've got the breakout. The only problem is, as I often say, we get a strong move like this, where does your stop go? The closest, and I wouldn't do this, but the closest I would have my stop if I was a buyer today at 219 is the other side of 205. So I would much rather buy a pullback in Travellers, but absolutely that is the sort of thing that I look for. Is, we've got some strength, we had some real strength, we've got some real strength in that stock since October last year. So yeah, interesting one. What about sterling yen? Let's have a look at sterling yen. Hold on a sec. GBP, JPY. I'm long Swiss yen at the moment, and that sterling yen feels a bit like my Swiss yen trade. Yeah, that it's not quite getting a move on. I mean, it's positive, it's broken out. It broke out here briefly, sold off, broke out again earlier this week. So I'd be a buyer. It just doesn't seem to have a lot of momentum at the moment, doesn't it? So if I was a buyer of sterling yen, the closest I would have my stop at the moment would be the other side of the lows for Monday, which are 187.85. So what I would do is I'd be a buyer and then just try and be a bit patient and see if it gets a move on. Why not look at super microcomputers again for a laugh? For a laugh. Super microcomputers, it's still going up, isn't it? Wow, look at that. Crazy market. That is nuts, isn't it? So what's it done this year? So super micro closed at 284 and it's touched 1,000 plus today. It's interesting, that's quite the big turnaround today, isn't it? What's the story here? Soars on AI momentum. Oh God, AI. Okay, that's a great example of, I would miss that. If I wasn't in it already, I would miss it because the thing never pulls back. But, that's a massive range today, and we're only, what time is it? We're only half an hour into the day, and it's already traded as high as 1077, as low as 900. So we've had a 20% range on the stock for today. Pretty volatile. Let's see what happens next week. Is there going to be a buying opportunity next week? But that is a crazy old market, isn't it? Makes natural gas look positively pedestrian. The old supercomputer. Solana. Oh, we're getting back into the crazy world of crypto now, are we? You can tell when crypto's doing well, because then suddenly we get some of these more weird coins coming up. I don't know anything about crypto, so I don't even know if this is a weird coin. What would you do? I would sell it. There you go. I'd go short, put stop at 130. It's going to collapse. That's my view on Solana. If I had to trade it now, that's what I would do. If there was a bigger sell-off, I'd buy the dip. But again, that's had a great run, hasn't it? Since October, it's gone up fivefold, sixfold nearly since October. Like I say, I'd hardly ever trade Bitcoin, and I never look at these second division coins, can we call them? I don't know. So for me, yeah, it's not one for me. But great run. If anyone's been in it, great run. But it's interesting that it's failed again over the last couple of days in this sort of 120, 130 area. So let's see. Let's see what happens. There was that good, I don't know if you've seen it, the documentary on Netflix. I saw it this week, Bitconned, about these guys in Miami that invented a completely fake credit card to go and spend your crypto in the shops. Fascinating. And there was a thing at the end of that said, we've got to wind our memories back a bit here, but if you remember all the ICOs, all the initial coin offerings that came out when crypto was going crazy, I think there was a bit at the end of the film that said 78% of ICOs were found to be fraudulent. I thought it was interesting, reminding us of the crazy days of crypto. So that's recommended by me, Bitconned on Netflix. But no, interesting that. But for me, if I was in it, I'd have a really tight stop on, ready to take profits. If I had to do a trade today, I'd look to go short. Coinbase. Yeah, Coinbase has had a bit of a nuts week, isn't it, I think? Look at that. Because they had earnings out, didn't they? So their earnings came out. What did their earnings look like? Surprise. 4,600% surprise. So the estimate was for 0.022 earnings per share, and it did over $1 a share. So, but has it overreacted the wrong way? Has it overreacted up? So I don't know. If you wanted to go short, if you thought the Coinbase excitement was a bit overdone, it has done 50% in the last week and a half. It'd be interesting if it starts to run out of steam up here. But, you know, it had been recovering since Jan last year. Where was it Jan last year? $31. And here we are at 185. A long way off where it floated, obviously. But interesting one, that. Coinbase. Let's see what happens. If it does, it start to stutter a bit up around the $200 mark. Let's see. Let's see what happens. What do you think about XNG USD? What's that? XNG USD. Is it it's just natural gas, is it? Yeah, we did natural gas, didn't we? It's just really weak, isn't it? So yeah. German Bund, some correction today. Yes, look at Bunds. I like the Bund. Talk about them a bit in the WhatsApp group. It's an area of the market that does get ignored by private investors, but it's still a really interesting market. Bond markets. We look at the Bund. There's the Bund. It's still weak, isn't it? I think is it Sid's asked that. Yeah, still weak, isn't it? I think you were in the group, weren't you? And I said I would have sold the rally. We had that move on the inflation. We had a rally and it stalled on Thursday, and here we are again. So for me, I would still be leaning to being short. An aggressive trade, an aggressive bottom picker trade, which would be a buyer now with a stop the other side of 132.70. That would be an aggressive trade, but it still looks weak, doesn't it? It's been selling off since December. It's going to be an interesting one for next week, though. Let's see what happens today. You know, does it try and build a base down here? It had a little nose. I mean, maybe that is the better trade in terms of risk reward. It's the better trade. So we had the sell-off on the inflation data, the US inflation data. So this is the German bond. Sells off, does rally, but again, the rally stalls, as they have been doing, but it's coming down and it's fiddling around these old lows. So there's absolutely an argument. See, I'm talking myself into it now. From an aggressive trade point of view, to be a buyer with a stop the other side of 132.70. So you have, let's say you go 132.60 for a stop. So you've got 30 points risk, and if the thing goes back up to 134, you've got 120 points upside. So it's quite an interesting trade from a risk-reward point of view down here, isn't it? Let's look at UK gilts. What do they look like? Because I was wondering, were they going to try and make a base? They're sort of faffing around these old lows down here. But bond markets are really interesting. If you don't look at them, you know, particularly if you're a technical trader, charty trader, you know, you do get great trends in bonds, as we can see in this German Bund over the last few months, both up and down. So, interesting market that to watch the rest of today. So that's that. Euro Huff. Euro against the Hungarian, what's it? Forint. Euro Huff. On the dailies. Let's have a look at that on the dailies. What did you say? Textbook many-year-long trend. Oh, yeah. That is, isn't it? That's the euro against the Hungarian forint. From a trading point of view, what do you think? Is there an opportunity? I don't know. Let's have a look. So there's the big trend anyway. I mean, if I had to do anything, I'd be a buyer. You know, it absolutely, to my eyes, that correction in the euro that we've been in since October 22, that is well and truly over. So I would buy the dips. If I was a buyer now, I'd still want my stop below 375 on that. So I'd rather buy a pullback maybe, but that looks like a good trend. And what's this one? Chuff, the Swiss franc against the DKK, the Danish. Is it the krona, whatever it is. These Scandinavians and their currencies. Look at that. Dodgy price in there, obviously. Yeah, great trend there, isn't it? I would buy that. I'd buy that now. So for me, if I was a buyer today, I would put the stop the other side of 78 or 7.8, I should say. So that has had a great trend, isn't it? Quite a bit of duff data going on in there. That's the Swiss franc against the Danish krona, whatever it's called. So yeah, nice trend on that, isn't it? So if we were going to just pick up on that. And like you say, pretty textbook. You know, a more conservative stop would be the other side of 770, wouldn't it? But, you know, we saw new highs for the trend just at the beginning of the year. So for now, any weakness looks like a, buying opportunity. What else have we got? We did the Bund, NatWest Bank. NatWest Bank. Is it NWB, NatWest Bank? I can't remember. NatWest. National Westminster Bank. Oh, they're the bonds, aren't they? Hang on. I used to remember all these codes off the top of my head, but I can't remember what it is. It's not NWM. Is it NWM? No. Oh, a bit slow today. Hold on a second. National Westminster Bank. It's coming up with the bonds. If anyone knows the code, fire it in. Because I cannot for the life of me remember it. I'm going to look somewhere else. Hold on. So it's going to be FTSE 100, isn't it? It must be a FTSE 100 company. Still, I'd have thought. NatWest Group, that's it. NWG. There we go. NatWest Group, UK listing. I would be tempted to be a seller, is what I would be tempted. I think again, you can probably make the argument for either direction here. So for me, that's the trend since Feb last year. I would take the view. Is it really breaking out that downtrend? I never believe the first break. So for me, I would be tempted to be a seller, put a stop above 245 or something like that, and see how it goes. But if it broke that 250 level, I'd have to change my mind on that and think we are reversing it. Yeah, but I mean, it's done terrible, isn't it? Since the financial crisis, isn't it? Like Lloyd's, isn't it? Lloyd's is another one that's done obviously pretty bad as well. Lloyd's Banking Group. There we go. Same sort of looking share. What about HSBC? I've got HSBC in my pension, I think. Let's have a look at those. What are they doing? Not a lot. There you go. So yeah, interesting one. The old NWG, NatWest Group. Oh, that's the US listing, wrong listing. Interesting one to watch next week for those who are fans of UK shares. Big move today, obviously. What happened today then? Our earnings. Here we go. So NatWest, big surprise on earnings. Okay, so yeah, I would be wondering, is that rally going to be a bit short-lived? Let's see. Baseload find turnaround. Baseloady. Okay, Baseload Energy Group. Who is it? Toronto. Is it TS? Is that the right one? Looks right, doesn't it? It just looks a bit boring to me, I'd have to say, that one. You know, so it's not doing a lot for me. If I had to be a buyer, and I hate these little stocks anyway. I'm guessing that's 39 Canadian cents. I put a stop below 30 cents, but it just looks a bit one of these highly, like an AIM stock for a UK stock. You know, it looks like one of those just crazy little, whatever it is they do, energy. What's that? It's trades in the US as well. Yeah, it's all the same. So it's not doing a lot for me. But yeah, if I had to buy it, I'd put a stop below 33 or 30 on that. Is there a market to look for Bitcoin versus gold? I don't know. There must be like Bitcoin. There must be. I bet there's someone who quotes it against gold, isn't there? Or you can make your own thing. I don't know. Here's a mark, but NWG US cotton. Oh, do you know what? You know that there are trades that you should have done and you didn't. I was going to do cotton last year, and I just got distracted. And I mentioned it in the WhatsApp group yesterday. Hold on a second. What a move that has had. So I was thinking about buying it about 78.80 end of last year because it had fallen out of its trend, but it held above these old lows, March 2023 lows. And here we are. It's gone from 78 to 93. So what's that? 20% move in cotton over the last 4 months or so. So I think it's a really interesting market now. Is this a valid breakout in the price of cotton? I don't know, but I think it's an interesting market to watch next week. So I think that's, thanks for mentioning that. And it's been a great market. I've traded it in the past when we had this great trend in cotton from whenever to whenever it was. Can't remember. 2020 all the way into 2022. What did the price do then? Went from 50 to 150. So yeah, I missed that one, but I think that's an interesting one to watch. I think next week. So yeah, if I don't look at it next week, so someone could remind me, and let's see where it's trading. What's happening with oil? Not a lot. So that's it, I think, isn't it? Bitcoin. Oh, BTC. Yeah, BTC XAU. I don't know why someone would look at the price of Bitcoin in gold, but there you go. That's what it looks like. Buy Bitcoin, sell gold, isn't it? I mean, gold has been pretty sideways. So yeah, 25.789, whatever that means. Cocoa. Let's have a look at cocoa. Cocoa's calmed down a bit this week, isn't it? What's it done? Oh yeah, there we go. So we had that parabolic move in cocoa. Another one I've watched go up and didn't actually buy. But that parabolic move from the beginning of Jan. Are we going to get a bit of a sell-off? Be looking to buy the dip in cocoa. But yeah, I mean, it went from, what did it go from? 4,000, the Jan lows, to as high as 58.50 about a month later. So almost 50% move in cocoa. Let's see what happens. I think if that starts to sell off, it looks a bit more interesting. So yeah, that's it, I think. So for me, very much next week, the focus will still be stock markets. We've got those Fed meeting minutes on Wednesday. US markets shut on Monday, so a quiet day. Tuesday might be a quiet day as well. Let's see what happens with these stock markets this afternoon. Got the DAX breaking out to all-time highs. That's bullish. Got the dollar. Really needs to make its mind up, the US dollar. So I think that's quite an interesting market. And those are probably the two I'm most bothered about, really. US stocks and the US dollar. You know, stuff like oil. Are we going to see $80 be a barrier again? I don't know. And then otherwise, I just carry on with all my little US stock trades. My portfolio of, they're mainly longs. There are a few shorts in there because I'm trying to get some shorts in to balance it up. But not surprisingly, with the market like it is, the shorts aren't doing that well. But I do have some Coca-Cola shorts doing all right. Let's have a look at that. So I went short that. Coca-Cola. Yeah, but again, I mean, I went short because the trend is down. But again, it's just not, obviously with their market being strong, even stuff that looks weak is being kept up. So let's see what happens. But otherwise, we'll leave things there. We're done. So another interesting week, I think, next week. If you can click like on the video, I'm not sure how much difference any of that stuff makes. But if you click the thumbs up, it might help YouTube do something. And if you go to the website, davidjonestrading.co.uk, you can see, what can you see? You can sign up for the WhatsApp group and try that out. Otherwise, I'll be back next week. We'll do it all again this time next week. We'll see where markets are. See if these stock markets are still going up. Otherwise, have a good week and don't lose too much money. Sign up for the newsletter. I'll send that out over the weekend. Otherwise, see you all next Friday. Thanks very much.